the woman who needs no one. Carl Jung reveals her secret strength. He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakens. Carl Jung. In a world that often measures a woman's worth by her relationships, there emerges a rare kind of woman, one who is whole on her own. Her power doesn't come from rebellion, but from radical self-respect. She's not hard to love. She's just done proving her worth. This video will unveil the quiet strength and deep emotional intelligence behind the woman who doesn't chase, beg, or settle. Her solitude isn't loneliness, it's sacred space. As you listen, ask yourself, have you met her, or are you becoming her? Drop a comment below if you feel this energy rising in you. Let's talk about what it truly means to stand in your own spiritual awakening and embody unshakable self-worth. 1. Wholeness without dependency. She is not broken. She is whole. And that terrifies a world built on dependency. A woman who chooses solitude over validation, depth over distraction, presence over performance, is not just rejecting tradition, she is embodying a new form of power. Her independence is not defiance. It is alignment. In a culture that insists a woman's worth is measured by who she belongs to, she becomes dangerous the moment she belongs to herself. She's not waiting to be chosen. She has already chosen herself. And in doing so, she has disrupted everything we've been conditioned to believe about love, femininity, and fulfillment. This isn't about avoiding relationships. It's about refusing to lose yourself inside of them. The woman who needs no one has already journeyed to her own depths, sat in the silence of her soul, and returned with a truth so radiant it no longer requires external confirmation. She doesn't crave a savior. She has become her own. She doesn't chase approval. She validates her existence through her breath, her presence, her peace. She understands what most fear to admit, that solitude is not loneliness, it's sovereignty. The moment she stopped fearing her own company, she became untouchable by society's projections. She no longer accepts emotional crumbs. She no longer shrinks to fit someone else's narrative. Her strength lies not in how much she can endure for love, but in how fiercely she protects her own energy. Her boundaries are not walls. They are sacred rituals of self-respect. And while others may whisper that she's too much, too strong, too distant, they fail to see that her distance is not detachment, it is discernment. She does not open herself to those who have not earned the right to witness her light. Her silence speaks louder than noise, her absence more powerful than presence, because she knows that not everyone deserves access to her energy, and not every connection is meant to be kept. This is the kind of spiritual awakening that Carl Jung understood. The individuation of the soul, the integration of shadow and light, the wholeness that comes not from attachment, but from inner truth. She has stepped outside the collective script and written her own. Her life is no longer dictated by the expectations of others, but by the rhythm of her intuition. She has learned that to walk alone is not a curse, but a privilege. That to be misunderstood is not failure, but freedom. She moves through the world not with arrogance, but with grounded knowing. She doesn't need to explain why she's single, why she's quiet, why she's different. Her existence is not an invitation for commentary. It is a living testimony that spirituality is not something you perform, it is something you live. And in her stillness, in her clarity, in her unwavering presence, she becomes the very embodiment of divine feminine power. Have you ever felt complete without needing anyone to validate your worth? If so, share your story in the comments so others can find strength in it. If not, simply comment, "I will trust my wholeness," and let this be your first step towards spiritual wisdom and self-reliance. 2. From pain to power. She didn't retreat into solitude out of bitterness or fear. She arrived there through the fire of healing. She didn't isolate because she was wounded, but because she became wise. She had tasted the sting of emotional neglect, the ache of abandonment, the quiet devastation of waiting for someone to meet her where she always met others. And in that darkness, something extraordinary happened. Instead of reaching outward for someone to complete her, she turned inward and met the one person she had been waiting for all along herself. This was not a surface-level shift, but a soul-level reawakening. She stopped mistaking attention for affection, chaos for passion, silence for safety. She began to see through the illusion of codependency that the world wraps in romance, and with every tear she shed alone, she planted a new seed of power. Her solitude is not emptiness. It is sacred space. It is the ground where clarity took root and where her voice, once silenced by the noise of others' expectations, grew thunderous in its truth. Carl Jung said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." She did exactly that. And what she saw wasn't a broken woman, but one who had been buried under years of false roles, unspoken sacrifices, and emotional debris that didn't belong to her. She saw that her pain was not punishment, it was preparation. She didn't just survive what she went through, she transmuted it into wisdom, and that wisdom became her new compass. Her emotional intelligence was carved out of disappointments that once threatened to undo her. And now she navigates life with a sacred non-negotiable: peace. The woman who needs no one is not unreachable. She's just unwilling to trade her soul for shallow comfort. She will not diminish her light to be seen by those who fear their own. Her boundaries are not barriers. They are invitations for only those with spiritual maturity to enter. Spirituality, for her, is not an escape from life. It is a devotion to truth, a reverence for her own energy, and a commitment to never abandoning herself again. She no longer waits for someone to notice her worth because she is too busy embodying it. She doesn't confuse being chosen with being valued. She understands that real love is not proven by grand gestures, but by consistency, respect, and emotional safety. And until it arrives in that form, she will remain in her sanctuary, rooted in self-worth, nourished by solitude, lit by the quiet fire of spiritual development. She lives in a world where women are taught that partnership is the goal, but she walks a path where wholeness is the destination, not because she doesn't believe in love, but because she finally believes in herself. The world may call her too much, too strong, too distant, but that's only because they've never met a woman who knows how to hold herself. And when you encounter a woman like this, don't ask her why she's alone. Ask yourself if you're ready to meet her where she already met herself. If you've ever turned your pain into power, comment below. I rise through the storm. If not yet, let this be your moment to begin. Subscribe for more spiritual wisdom and awaken the strength within you. 3. Carl Jung and shadow integration. She is not lonely. She is luminous in her own light. The woman who needs no one has walked the path of shadow integration Carl Jung so often spoke of. She didn't just read about spirituality, she lived it. She descended into the forgotten places within herself, where unhealed wounds and unconscious beliefs tried to rule her life. And with radical courage, she sat with those shadows until they revealed their wisdom. She faced her emotional ghosts, not to destroy them, but to understand them, to reclaim every fragmented part of herself. And in doing so, she emerged not as a version of who the world expected her to be, but as her own complete self. In Jung's words, wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. And that is what she has done. She has integrated her contradictions, her softness and strength, her wildness and wisdom into a coherent, unshakable inner presence. This woman is not driven by the need to be chosen. She is driven by the deep spiritual wisdom that reminds her, I am already whole. While the world tells her that fulfillment comes through external partnership, she has discovered that true love begins not with another person, but with sacred solitude. She no longer begs for love dressed as validation. She no longer tolerates emotional crumbs from those who fear the depth of her soul. Instead, she has cultivated a rare intelligence, a spiritual sovereignty that most people are too distracted or afraid to pursue. Her peace disturbs those who are addicted to chaos. Her clarity threatens those who benefit from confusion. She is not hard to love. She simply refuses to be loved poorly. Her life reflects a quiet revolution. She no longer seeks to be understood by those who do not even understand themselves. She has stopped performing for acceptance and started choosing alignment. Carl Jung taught that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. But she has done the opposite. She has faced her soul and made it her home. She doesn't fill empty spaces with noise or people who cannot meet her depth. She fills it with intention, beauty, and purpose. Her solitude is sacred, not sad. Her independence is not arrogance, it is discipline. She no longer needs anyone to complete her, because she has remembered what society tried to make her forget, that the deepest union is with your own truth. And so, when she walks into a room, she doesn't demand attention, she alters the frequency. She is not loud, but she is undeniable. She is not dependent, but she is deeply connected to herself, to source, to purpose. The world calls her intimidating because they've never seen a woman who doesn't compromise her soul for connection. She is not here to chase, to please, or to perform. She is here to reflect the possibility of wholeness back to a world still asleep in its own illusions. Her presence is a mirror, and not everyone is ready to see what it reveals. But for those who are, she becomes a spiritual lighthouse, a rare reminder that the path to true power begins not with being needed, but with being whole. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on how Carl Jung's shadow integration can transform your deepest pain into your greatest power. 4. Presence over performance. She no longer waits for someone to choose her, because she understands that choosing herself is the most radical act of love and intelligence. She isn't trying to prove her worth through relationships that demand her silence, nor does she shrink to make others feel comfortable. Her presence is her answer, When she walks into a room, it's not her words that speak. It's the calm, anchored energy that tells you she has walked through fire and chosen to rise, not to please, but to become. People may say she's too distant or too hard to reach, but that's only because they are not used to a woman who doesn't negotiate her soul. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And she has. That is her secret strength, not independence for the sake of defiance, but spiritual clarity that refuses to perform for validation. She no longer needs to be admired to feel whole, nor does she measure her value by who desires her. She recognizes the games, the masks, the subtle manipulations of a world still obsessed with female submission, and she simply opts out. She has replaced desperation with discernment. Her no is a boundary rooted in self-respect, not cruelty. Her solitude isn't a cry for attention. It is the result of deep spiritual awakening, where peace becomes more attractive than performance. While others chase attention in fear of being forgotten, she embraces quiet because she knows the soul speaks loudest in silence. Her clarity is often mistaken for coldness by those who benefit from confusion. But she doesn't care to explain. Her life is not an audition, it's an embodiment. She no longer engages in love that feels like war. If affection demands that she abandon herself, it is no longer love. It is a transaction, and she's no longer for sale. Her softness is earned, not offered cheaply. She doesn't seek to be mysterious. She's simply not here to be consumed. The path she walks is not paved with approval, but with alignment. She chooses relationships that hold space for her essence, not just her appearance. Her energy is sacred, and she treats it as such. In a culture that teaches women to bend, break, and beautify their wounds for male comfort, she stands as a quiet rebellion whole, unbothered, and deeply rooted in truth. Spirituality has taught her that presence is more powerful than performance. Her healing journey wasn't pretty, but it was real. She sat with her shadows, held her inner child, and listened to the echoes of past versions of herself begging to be seen. And now that she has seen herself, no one can make her unseen. She's no longer addicted to being chosen because she has chosen herself every single day, even when it was lonely, even when it was misunderstood. And that choice became her power. Carl Jung reminds us, you are what you do, not what you say you'll do. And she lives this truth. She doesn't have to prove her depth, it is felt. She doesn't ask to be understood. She simply exists as a frequency few can meet. Five, redefining love. She still wants love, but not the kind that demands she abandons herself in exchange for affection. Not the kind that asks her to trade her silence for security or her truth for belonging. She wants a love that allows her to remain whole while being held, a love rooted in reciprocity, where both hearts offer depth, presence, and emotional maturity. She no longer tolerates performance-based affection, shallow compliments, or connections built on convenience. For her, true love has nothing to do with possession or saving someone from loneliness. It's about two sovereign souls who walk side by side without leaning so heavily that one disappears into the other. She knows now that completion doesn't come from another person. It comes from spiritual development, from returning to herself over and over again until her own company feels like peace. As Carl Jung taught, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And she has made the unconscious conscious. She has turned inward and found her truth in solitude, embraced her wounds with compassion, and met herself with reverence. This kind of self-awareness has redefined what love means to her. It is no longer the fantasy of being chosen or saved. It is the daily act of choosing someone who chooses themselves too. Someone who sees her strength not as a threat, but as an invitation to rise in their own power. She doesn't crave attention anymore. She values intention. She's not seduced by charm, but by consistency. Her heart doesn't beat faster for someone who texts late at night, but for the one who shows up early and often. She doesn't need promises whispered in the dark. She needs presence in the light of day. She is no longer impressed by those who only want her when it's convenient, because she has become a woman who honors her own time, her own energy, her own boundaries. In her spiritual journey, she's learned that peace is not something to be negotiated. Her silence is sacred. Her independence is not armor, it's clarity. And if someone cannot meet her at the level of depth she lives at, she no longer lowers herself to be understood. She has become fluent in the language of solitude. Her standards are not walls, they are thresholds. And the right person will not be intimidated by the fire in her eyes, but warmed by it. She doesn't wait to be loved anymore. She lives as love. She has realized that being alone is not the same as being lonely. It's a form of devotion to her inner world. She's not afraid of the space between relationships because she uses it to grow, to reflect, to expand. She is not half looking for a whole. She is a whole woman who knows that any relationship must add to her life, not subtract from it. That kind of clarity isn't cold, it's sacred. That kind of discipline is not rigid, it's radiant. She knows now that a love worth having doesn't cost your peace. A love worth growing doesn't require you to shrink. And a love that truly sees you will never ask you to disappear. So she redefines love not through longing, but through embodiment. Not through fantasy, but through alignment. Because in the depth of her solitude, she has discovered the most spiritual truth of all. The relationship she was searching for outside herself has always lived within. Does this redefine what love means to you? Comment, "I agree," if this resonates with your truth. Or, "I don't think so." If your view is different, your voice matters in this spiritual conversation. 6. A new feminine archetype. She is not broken, bitter, or cold. She is simply whole. She doesn't seek validation through romantic entanglements or base her worth on being chosen by anyone else. She is self-sourced, spiritually awake, and emotionally sovereign, embodying a rare intelligence that society doesn't know how to define because it cannot control her. Her silence unsettles people. Her peace confuses those who equate stillness with emptiness. Her boundaries challenge everything we've been conditioned to expect from a woman. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And that is exactly what she has done. She has stopped running, stopped pleasing, stopped diluting her essence to fit someone else's version of love. She walks through life as her own source of fulfillment, no longer asking for permission to exist deeply. Her worth is not found in a glance, a text, or an invitation, but in the way she honors her truth in every breath, every step, every choice. This is not the woman who clings to the hope of being saved. This is the woman who has walked through fire, who has faced the dark mirror of her own soul, and emerged not burned, but illuminated. She's not afraid of solitude because she no longer mistakes loneliness for lack. She knows that sometimes silence is a sanctuary. Sometimes boundaries are a form of love. She's not here to perform for approval. She is here to embody presence. Her energy doesn't chase at commands. She magnetizes without effort because she doesn't strive to impress. She strives to align. Her femininity is not defined by fragility or need. It's defined by depth, discernment, and the ability to say no without guilt and yes without fear. Her path is not for the faint-hearted because it requires a deep spiritual awakening, the kind that strips away illusions and demands truth over comfort. She no longer settles for half love or potential. She's not enticed by almosts or promises. She knows that real connection begins with the self, that the soul can only meet another soul when it has first met itself. Carl Jung's concept of individuation is alive in her. She has become whole by integrating all the fragmented parts of her identity, her pain, her longing, her power. And now, she doesn't just survive, she radiates. She doesn't beg to be seen, she chooses when to reveal herself. She doesn't explain her solitude, it explains her. While the world still measures a woman's worth by who wants her, she measures hers by who she becomes when she is alone. She is not rejecting love. She is refining her frequency until love arrives that recognizes her as its equal, not its escape. In a culture that teaches women to fear being alone, she stands as a quiet revolution. Her very existence is a disruption to every script that says her value lies in her ability to be needed. She doesn't need to be needed. She needs to be free. And in that freedom, she has become rare, untouchable, magnetic, not because she's unreachable, but because she's finally reached herself. She is the woman who needs no one, not out of pride, but out of presence, not out of bitterness, but out of balance, not out of fear, but out of full embodiment. This is not rebellion. This is remembrance. This is not avoidance. This is alignment. This is not ego. This is evolution. 7. Spiritual awakening as rebellion. In a culture that idolizes romantic connection as the ultimate validation, the woman who walks alone becomes a quiet rebellion. She isn't seeking approval. She isn't waiting to be completed. She already is. Her solitude isn't an absence of love. It's a presence of self. Her energy no longer pleads to be seen because she has already seen herself. What others mistake for being too independent is actually spiritual awakening in motion. She has stopped chasing projections and started embodying truth. As Carl Jung described through the process of individuation, she has peeled away the masks, burned the scripts, and reclaimed her wholeness not as an act of defiance, but as a return to essence. She no longer performs femininity to be palatable. She no longer contorts herself to fit within the lines drawn by someone else's imagination of what a woman should be. Her transformation is not performative. It is energetic, cellular, and irreversible. She threatens the system not by what she says, but by what she no longer needs to say. There is power in her silence, not the silence of suppression, but the silence of sovereignty. People feel the shift in her presence. They don't know why they're drawn to her, or why they feel slightly unsettled around her. but it's because she's not playing the game. She's not addicted to being desired. She's free. That kind of freedom is magnetic and deeply unsettling to those still trapped in the belief that worth comes from being chosen. Her path wasn't handed to her. She carved it through loneliness, through late nights of spiritual reckoning, through the sacred art of not settling. She has learned to hold herself emotionally, spiritually, energetically. She became the love she was taught to beg for. She became the mirror that doesn't distort. And now, she walks through life as her own home. This is not detachment. This is a deep connection to soul, to source, to self. And because she no longer clings, she no longer suffers from absence. She can love, but she will never grasp. She can give, but not from depletion. She becomes the embodiment of a truth society isn't ready to face, that the most powerful woman is the one who does not need to be saved, fixed, or chosen. Her wholeness is her revolution. She doesn't wait for love. She radiates it. She doesn't chase validation. She stands in resonance. And her existence alone invites others to awaken, to question, to remember. In this lifetime, she didn't come to conform. She came to remind the world of a forgotten truth. That divinity begins with self-recognition, and that no union, no matter how romantic, can replace the spiritual home you build within. 8. Sacred solitude as home. She is not distant. She is deliberate. And her silence is not emptiness, but a sacred space of intention, where her soul breathes freely and her boundaries are honored. In a world obsessed with validation and constant companionship, she has chosen solitude not as a retreat, but as her reclamation, a return to the self that never needed to be fixed, only remembered. She is not hiding from love. She is guarding her frequency, attuned only to that which honors her peace. Her presence is not an invitation for approval, but a declaration of self-worth that needs no echo. While others chase the illusion that partnership will complete them, she has unearthed the deeper truth. Real love is not salvation. It is celebration, and you only attract it when you have already rescued yourself from the hunger for external affirmation. This woman has done the work, faced her shadows, held herself in the dark, and emerged radiant, not because someone pulled her out, but because she lit the fire within. Her spiritual awakening was not loud or dramatic. It was steady and sovereign, a deep unfolding of wisdom that whispered, "Wholeness precedes partnership." She didn't become powerful by accident. She became powerful by refusing to settle, by breaking cycles of codependency, by no longer mistaking crumbs for connection. She has learned to sit in stillness while the world spins in panic, to listen to her intuition when logic fails, to choose clarity over chaos and self-respect over temporary affection. Her energy is disruptive, not because it is loud, but because it is clear. Systems built on dependence cannot withstand the presence of someone who no longer needs to be needed. What appears as distance is actually depth. What looks like indifference is discernment. And what you call solitude, she calls sovereignty. The feminine no longer diluted for comfort, no longer shrunken to fit fragile expectations, no longer softened to soothe insecure egos. This woman is dangerous to everything built on performance because her power is rooted in presence. Her love is not given to feel whole. It is offered from a place of wholeness. She is no longer impressed by grand gestures or swayed by hollow words because her spiritual development has taught her that true connection is energy, not entertainment. She does not fear being alone because she has met herself there, and what she found was not emptiness, but everything. She moves like a prayer answered, like a soul returned home. Her life is not a rebellion, it is a sacred realignment. And in every step, she teaches a silent truth. You don't need to be saved. You need to be seen. You don't need to be chosen. You need to remember that you were never unworthy. She embodies a kind of intelligence rooted in spiritual wisdom, not manipulation or control, and that threatens every system that profits off your doubt. In her, we see the embodiment of a truth most are too afraid to claim, that peace is the true prize. That solitude is not suffering, but self-sovereignty, and that the woman who needs no one has become the most magnetic force of all. If this message stirred something deep within you, know that her strength lives in all of us. The woman who needs no one has learned to belong fully to herself, and in doing so, she becomes magnetic, not because she seeks love, but because she is love. If you found wisdom in this journey, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs this message, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Tap the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming insights on spiritual awakening, personal power, and the psychology of transformation. Stay radiant. Stay sovereign. The unmistakable signs someone is truly meant for you. Carl Jung once said, "Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see." Have you ever felt that someone entered your life at the exact moment you needed them? Not by chance, but as if life itself conspired to bring your paths together? In today's video from Spiritual Wisdom, we'll explore the unmistakable signs that someone is truly meant for you, whether it's a soulmate, a mentor, a friend, or even a brief encounter with profound purpose. These aren't just ideas to think about. They're principles you can apply to your daily life to bring more clarity, connection, and peace into your relationships. What do you believe? Is it fate, alignment, or something deeper? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. 1. There are no accidental encounters, only synchronicity. Carl Jung's concept of synchronicity reveals that the people who enter your life are not random. They're messengers of meaning, reflections of your inner world seeking wholeness. In spiritual awakening, these encounters are not measured by time or logic, but by resonance. You feel it in your bones when someone is truly meant for you, not because they check all the boxes, but because their presence awakens a forgotten part of you. They arrive just as you're ready, not a second too soon or too late, mirroring your readiness to grow, heal, or transform. Whether it's a friend who says exactly what your soul needed to hear, a mentor who shifts your entire perspective, or a romantic partner who cracks your heart wide open, these are not mere coincidences. They are alignments of purpose, orchestrated by a deeper intelligence that sees beyond what the eye can. The human soul longs for recognition, and the people meant for us often trigger that recognition with uncanny precision. It's not about perfection, it's about activation. These individuals often show up when you least expect them, but most need them guiding you into deeper dimensions of self. Some encounters are gentle, Others are confrontational, but all are significant. They carry energy that shakes you, challenges you, liberates you. Jung believed that these connections surface from the unconscious to make the unseen seen, to pull you closer to your center. And in that moment, you don't just meet a person, you meet a part of yourself you hadn't yet discovered. The pull isn't logical. It's energetic, emotional, and spiritual. You sense that they've been walking toward you, just as you've been walking toward them, even if neither of you realized it. In modern life, where noise, distraction, and superficiality run rampant, recognizing these connections requires stillness. It requires the courage to trust your intuition, to follow the subtle inner signals that tell you, this person matters. Often, they don't come with clarity, they come with intensity. They may not soothe you right away. They may stir your wounds, call out your shadows, or shake up your world. But that too is sacred, because sometimes the soul doesn't crave comfort, it craves evolution. And the people who are truly meant for you won't just agree with who you are, they will pull you into who you are becoming. That is the gift of true alignment. It is felt more than it is explained, known more than it is analyzed. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that every meaningful connection is a message from the universe, a breadcrumb on the path of awakening. You are not here to chase people or question their timing. You are here to notice the ones who bring clarity to your confusion, light to your dark corners, and movement to your stagnant places. These are the ones who are not just passing through, they are passing something to you. A memory, a shift, a choice. Pay attention, because the soul does not make casual appointments. It makes contracts. And in honoring those contracts, you begin to realize that you're not just falling into relationships, you're being called into alignment. Have you ever experienced a moment so perfectly timed, it felt like the universe was speaking directly to you? If you believe there are no accidental encounters, only synchronicity, comment below. I trust divine timing. 2. Every relationship is a mirror. Every relationship you enter holds a mirror to your soul, either reflecting your spiritual development or revealing the wounds you've yet to heal. When a connection feels like you're constantly walking on eggshells, adjusting your words to avoid conflict, or hiding your truth to be accepted, it's a clear sign the bond is rooted in survival, not spirituality. You begin to mold yourself to fit someone else's comfort while abandoning your own emotional truth. This isn't alignment, it's emotional camouflage. Carl Jung reminds us, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But the transformation should elevate you, not erase you. When a connection is truly meant for you, it awakens your essence rather than demanding your silence. It feels like resonance, not resistance. It invites you to be real, not rehearsed. It becomes a safe space where your authenticity is not only welcomed, but cherished. You no longer feel the need to please, chase, or prove yourself. Instead, you feel seen without performance, heard without noise, loved without condition. In a relationship aligned with your spiritual development, energy flows with ease. Conversations don't drain you, they expand you. Silence doesn't feel like punishment, it feels like peace. The connection doesn't mirror your fears, it mirrors your light. But false mirrors distort. They pull you into patterns where love feels anxious, where presence feels conditional, and where your identity is compromised. These mirrors replay your childhood wounds, your fear of abandonment, your need to earn love. And yet, it is in recognizing these patterns that spiritual awakening begins. You start to ask better questions. Does this connection honor my truth? Does it allow me to grow without guilt? Does it feel like home or like a test I keep failing? Spirituality teaches that when someone is meant for you, they don't rescue you. They remind you who you are. They don't demand that you change to meet their needs. They evolve with you, walking beside you in truth. Their love doesn't require translation. It speaks the language of your soul. You begin to discern that real connection doesn't threaten your freedom. It expands it. You understand that being loved isn't about being chosen in someone else's story, but about choosing yourself enough to only allow mirrors that reflect your highest self. So if you find yourself constantly questioning your worth in someone's presence, shrinking to keep the peace, or trading truth for attachment, it's not love, it's survival, dressed as connection. And you're here for more. You're here to rise, to awaken, to walk in relationships where love is not earned through sacrifice, but felt through resonance. Because in the end, it's not about who stays, it's about who helps you stay true to yourself. That is the mirror worth keeping. Comment below. I embrace the mirror. If you're ready to grow through every soul connection that reflects your truth. 3. Real connection feels like peace, not chaos. When someone is truly meant for you, the connection feels like inner stillness, not emotional turbulence. It's not about fireworks that leave you burned, but about a quiet presence that grounds you. With them, you don't feel the urge to chase, to prove yourself, or to perform for love. You don't shrink your truth to keep the peace, nor do you second-guess your worth after every interaction. Their energy is not chaotic, it's calming. Their presence doesn't pull you into overthinking, it invites you into clarity. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." But the transformation isn't destructive, it's illuminating. With the right person, you evolve with ease, not exhaustion. You feel emotionally safe enough to expand, spiritually awake enough to discern the difference between comfort and control, and wise enough to choose peace over patterns. Real connection isn't addictive, it's nourishing. It doesn't ignite your insecurities, it heals them. There's no guessing game, no back and forth energy, no deep pit in your stomach after the phone call ends. The bond is defined by emotional intelligence and spiritual wisdom, not emotional chaos. It's when conversations flow naturally, silences are sacred, and your nervous system finally exhales. It's when you feel seen, not for who you pretend to be, but for who you are beneath the layers. And that seeing becomes the sacred mirror that reflects your light back to you, without distortion, without judgment. But when a connection is rooted in misalignment, your spirit knows. It feels like walking on broken glass while calling it love. You give more than you receive. You overextend in the name of keeping peace. And you tolerate inconsistency disguised as passion. Chaos becomes your normal, and you begin to confuse anxiety for connection. And yet, deep down, something in you aches for a different kind of love, one that doesn't leave you emotionally bankrupt. When the person is not meant for you, your soul whispers louder with each misstep. This is not it. Because when you're constantly negotiating for your place in someone's life, you're not being loved, you're being tolerated. A person who is truly meant for you will never ask you to betray your peace to keep the relationship alive. Instead, they will meet you with calm clarity, with energy that softens you, not hardens you. You'll feel inspired to rise, not pressured to shrink. They will recognize your worth without you having to package it. And most importantly, you won't feel like you're trying to survive the connection. You'll feel like you're finally alive within it. That is the intelligence of spiritual alignment. That is the frequency of a soul-deep bond. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it is unmistakably real. If this message of peace over chaos resonates with your soul, subscribe and tap the bell. Your journey towards spiritual wisdom and deeper, real connection continues here, one insight at a time. 4. Solitude is sacred preparation. Society may idolize constant connection, but Jung understood something deeper, that solitude is not a void to be feared, but a sacred vessel for spiritual awakening and inner refinement. Solitude is where the masks fall away, where you meet the unfiltered version of yourself beyond the roles you play, the validation you chase, and the noise you confuse with belonging. When you choose solitude consciously, you're not isolating, you're initiating. You are stepping into a realm where the soul speaks louder than society's expectations, where individuation begins not through external affirmation, but by embracing the silent truth within. Jung believed that the journey of individuation requires a descent into the self, and solitude becomes the necessary terrain for that descent. It's not punishment, it's purification. It's not exile, it's evolution. The moment you stop looking for someone to complete you and begin reclaiming the parts of yourself you once abandoned for approval, something profound shifts. You start to realize that relationships built from emptiness only mirror your internal fractures. Love becomes a projection of your unmet needs rather than a reflection of your wholeness. But when you emerge from solitude with self-respect and emotional clarity, you carry an aura that no longer begs to attract you. You no longer seek love as a remedy. You embody love as a frequency. This is the intelligence of spiritual wisdom, the recognition that healthy relationships are not a replacement for solitude, but a reward for having mastered it. People who are truly meant for you will not be drawn to your wounds, but to your wholeness, to the peace you cultivated in silence, to the clarity you birthed in the dark. In a world that equates presence with performance, solitude becomes your rebellion, a sacred defiance that says, I will not abandon myself to be accepted by others. You begin to understand that solitude isn't about being alone. It's about being whole. And when you are whole, you become magnetic to those who are spiritually aligned, emotionally available, and energetically clean. You stop confusing intensity with intimacy, chaos with chemistry, and attention with affection. You see through the illusion. You honor the quiet because you have learned that real connection does not disrupt your peace. It deepens it. It doesn't rescue you from solitude. It respects the path that got you there. Solitude becomes your filter, your refinement, your inner temple where discernment is sharpened and soul contracts are remembered. So every moment you spend alone is not wasted time. It is sacred preparation. It is a cosmic tuning of your frequency, so that what enters your life next doesn't just excite your ego, but expands your soul. You're not waiting, you're awakening. You are aligning yourself, not with people who fill time, but with those who recognize truth. The silence you're sitting in now is the birthplace of everything divine that's coming. Not because you chased it, but because you became the version of yourself that no longer needs to. This is what it means to walk in the energy of spiritual awakening, to no longer seek wholeness outside, but to become so rooted in it within that only what is truly meant for you can find you. If you're still here, fully present with us, comment below. I'm honoring my sacred solitude. Your engagement helps us grow and reach more souls on the path of spiritual awakening. 5. You attract what you believe you deserve. The reason you keep attracting partners who leave you feeling unloved, unseen, or emotionally starved isn't because love has abandoned you. It's because, deep within, there's a belief silently running the show, telling you that this is what you deserve. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's not just a quote. It's a wake-up call. Your spirituality isn't separate from your relationships. Every person who walks into your life, every dynamic that repeats, is a mirror held up to your beliefs. If your inner dialogue whispers that love must be earned, that you're not enough, or that being ignored is normal, your unconscious will shape your outer world to reflect that and call it destiny. But destiny isn't punishment. It's a pattern asking to be rewritten. True spiritual development begins when you stop waiting for someone to choose you and start choosing yourself. It's in the moments when you say no to crumbs because you finally believe you deserve the feast. It's when you stop chasing potential and start honoring your presence. You attract what you believe you're worthy of, not what you post about or what you say you want. And your energy doesn't lie. If there's a wound still bleeding inside you, it will draw those who poke it, not those who heal it. This isn't your fault. It's your invitation. An invitation to turn inward and ask, what part of me still thinks this is all I can have? Because healing doesn't begin when someone finally treats you right. It begins the moment you stop betraying yourself. The moment you stop begging for bare minimum love and start embodying a higher standard. That shift in belief doesn't just change your relationships, it changes your life. It teaches you that love isn't something to be earned, it's something to be remembered, something you are. And that remembrance is the deepest form of spirituality. It's not about who texts back or who stays. It's about how deeply you've come home to yourself. When you recognize your worth without waiting for applause, when your boundaries become sacred rather than negotiable, when solitude feels rich instead of empty, you'll stop attracting chaos and start magnetizing peace. You'll stop tolerating confusion and start welcoming clarity. This is what spiritual development looks like in action, not in temples, but in the way you no longer abandon yourself to be loved. The way you say, I deserve more, not with arrogance, but with calm knowing. You are not here to be chosen by those who don't know how to see you. You are here to rise to a level where your very being becomes the choice. Because when your belief shifts, your energy shifts. And when your energy shifts, your entire experience of love transforms. You don't chase alignment anymore, you become it. If this message resonates with you, comment, "I agree" below. If you see it differently, feel free to comment, "I don't think so." Your voice matters, and your beliefs shape your reality. 6. Transformation requires choosing the unknown. Most people remain trapped in relationships that no longer serve their soul simply because they are familiar. They cling to pain that's predictable rather than step into the mystery of the unknown, even when the unknown holds the promise of freedom. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And yet, that pain becomes a threshold, not a punishment, but an invitation. True transformation doesn't arrive in a neatly wrapped package. It arrives disguised as uncertainty, as the uncomfortable space where your old self no longer fits, and your new self hasn't yet fully formed. Growth, real spiritual growth, demands that you choose what is unfamiliar, not because it's easier, but because it's wiser. The familiar may give you temporary comfort, but the unknown holds the key to your evolution. It's in the unfamiliar that you meet your higher self. Where intelligence becomes more than intellect, it becomes self-trust, discernment, and spiritual wisdom. To choose the unknown is to trust that your future is more loyal to you than your past. It's to understand that not every connection is meant to last, and not every relationship deserves to follow you into your next chapter. Sometimes, the most intelligent decision is to leave not because you've given up, but because you've awakened. When you stay in what is familiar out of fear, you silence your inner voice and betray your deeper knowing. But when you choose discomfort in the name of growth, you reclaim your power and invite in the kind of alignment that comfort never gave you. Spiritual wisdom teaches that endings are not failures, they are redirections. The moment you stop settling for what merely feels familiar and begin seeking what actually feels true, you unlock the highest version of your life. Transformation begins when you no longer need proof to believe in your own potential. Choosing the unknown is not recklessness, it is intelligence in its most sacred form. If this message speaks to your soul, repeat after me, "I am ready to walk into the unknown. I trust the transformation unfolding within me." 7. Your body and intuition always know. Your body holds a deeper wisdom than your mind is often willing to admit. Long before your intellect can rationalize, your nervous system already knows the truth. When you're around someone who disrupts your inner peace, your chest tightens, your breath shortens, and your energy dims. That discomfort isn't a flaw, it's a signal. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious is constantly guiding us through subtle signs. And in spiritual awakening, the body becomes the first place where these signals surface. When something feels off, even if everything appears fine on the surface, your system reacts: tightness, fatigue, anxiety. These are not random. They are your soul's way of whispering, "Pay attention." True connection, on the other hand, does not disturb your peace. It deepens it. It doesn't drain your energy. It restores it. It doesn't make you question your worth. It reminds you of it. Your spiritual wisdom is found not just in your thoughts, but in the way your body responds when no one is watching. Real alignment makes you feel at home, not like you have to perform. If you're constantly second-guessing yourself, feeling invisible, or subtly shrinking to keep the peace, that is not love, it is survival. You were not born to survive people. You were born to connect, to thrive, to feel safe in your own skin while being seen for your truth. That calm presence you feel around certain souls isn't just chemistry, it's coherence. It's your energy field recognizing safety, spiritual alignment, and emotional congruence. Your nervous system does not lie. It remembers what your mind tries to forget, and it speaks in sensations unease, exhaustion, warmth, lightness. Learn its language, and you'll stop mistaking intensity for intimacy, chaos for passion, and anxiety for love. In modern life, we've been conditioned to override these sacred signals. We tell ourselves we're just tired, overthinking, or being too sensitive. But the truth is, sensitivity is a gift. It is spiritual intelligence in motion. To be in tune with your body is to be in tune with your truth. Jung warned that what remains unconscious will rule your life, and your body is the doorway to making the unconscious conscious. Stop ignoring the fatigue that hits after that phone call. Stop rationalizing the tension that always arises around that one person. Your soul already knows your body is just the messenger. You don't have to wait for betrayal, heartbreak, or collapse to validate your intuition. The spiritual path begins when you stop explaining away what your nervous system already understands. You are not too much. You are not broken. You are aware, and awareness is your power. 8. You must become the person you're looking for. You don't attract the right person by searching for them. You attract them by stepping fully into your truth, into your healed, whole, and self-anchored identity. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." And that awakening is the gateway to the kind of love you've always deserved. When you stop asking the world to validate your worth and begin to embody that worth from within, everything changes. The search becomes unnecessary because your energy begins to speak louder than your words. You no longer confuse attention with affection or passion with peace. You no longer entertain dynamics that pull you out of alignment just to feel momentarily seen. Instead, you become the one who sees yourself clearly, who nurtures your own light so fully that anyone who steps into your life must rise to meet it, not dim it, fix it, or control it. This is the essence of spirituality and true spiritual development, not escaping your wounds, but transmuting them into wisdom. You attract from your level of healing, not your level of longing. When you're still waiting to be chosen, you tolerate behavior that betrays your spirit. But when you choose yourself fully, the need to be rescued disappears. Love, in its most elevated form, is not about completion, but companionship. It's not about fixing each other, but growing side by side in mutual respect, authenticity, and soul recognition. The deeper you go into yourself, the clearer your energy becomes, and that clarity becomes magnetic. You stop attracting chaos when your nervous system is regulated. You stop settling for potential when your self-worth is rooted in the present. You stop rehearsing old heartbreaks in new relationships when you've truly released the need to repeat the past. So instead of asking if they're the one, ask if you are showing up as the version of yourself who no longer negotiates peace for passion. Instead of waiting for the perfect person to arrive, ask if you are becoming the kind of person who inspires emotional safety, depth, and spiritual connection. If you want depth, embody it. If you want emotional maturity, live it. If you want soul-aligned love, stop entertaining anything that feels like a transaction of wounds. When you choose to evolve, to heal, to meet your own needs with reverence, you become the one, and from that space, you naturally attract another whole being who isn't there to fill your gaps, but to dance with your fullness. This is not about finding someone who fits your fantasy. It's about aligning with someone who recognizes your truth because they've met their own. Leave a like and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a message that could transform your path. Type in the comments, "I am becoming the person I'm meant to find," if you're ready to align with the love you truly deserve. 9. Healing prepares you for love. Carl Jung's Spiritual Wisdom teaches us that healing is not something you postpone for love. It's the very path that leads to it. Love is not a bandage for your emotional wounds, nor is it a substitute for your self-worth. When you're still bleeding inside, you seek love to save you. But when you've done the inner work, when you've met your shadows, faced your fears, and learned to sit in your own silence without shame, your energy changes, and so does the kind of love you attract. The right person doesn't show up when you're desperate for love. They show up when you're no longer needing love to define you. This is where real spiritual intelligence emerges, not from chasing someone, but from becoming someone who naturally draws in the energy you once had to beg for. As Jung said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." In that awakening, you begin to recognize love not as a fantasy to chase, but a frequency to embody. Healing shifts your focus from finding someone who will fix you to someone who will grow with you. You stop seeking intensity that mimics the highs of trauma, and instead value peace, stability, and presence. You become more aware of what feels like home and less tempted by what only feels familiar. And in that stillness, someone arrives not to rescue you, but to respect the wholeness you fought to reclaim. You no longer confuse chaos with passion or attention with devotion. Their presence feels effortless because your vibration no longer echoes scarcity or fear. It emits clarity. That's the mark of a spiritual awakening. You start recognizing who genuinely mirrors your emotional growth, who listens to understand rather than to respond, and who joins your journey without trying to rewrite your path. And that is when love becomes a reflection of your healed identity, not a distraction from your pain. So if you've ever wondered whether someone is truly meant for you, don't look at the butterflies, the sparks, or even the synchronicities. Look at who you were when they entered your life. Were you loving yourself, or were you trying to fill a void? Were you acting from self-worth or self-abandonment? When love is born from healing, it won't feel like a rescue mission. It will feel like alignment. It won't be about being completed. It will be about being seen. And when two whole souls meet, not because they need, but because they choose, that's not just romance, it's spiritual wisdom in motion. And remember, when someone is truly meant for you, their presence will align with your growth, your peace, and your purpose, not your confusion. As Carl Jung once said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. If this message touched something deep within you, Don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos that guide you closer to the truth, the soul, and the wisdom you were always meant to awaken.